Buying an annuity means transferring your life savings into a complex contract. It is a massive, often irreversible financial decision. For years, the industry only required these products to be suitable for a buyer. Now, state standards demand they actively serve the consumer's best interest. This map shows the NAIC Model 275 Best Interest Standard. These 2020 revisions created a legal framework across the country that forces the industry to elevate the consumer above all other parties. But words on paper leave room for interpretation. The actual challenge lies in building an objective, mathematical system to prove a recommendation meets this standard before any policy is ever issued. The client anchors this entire ecosystem, an individual whose retirement security and financial future are entirely on the line. They rely on the producer, the frontline expert carrying the legal burden, to gather deep consumer profile information. They must verify and document exact ages, risk tolerances, and specific financial timelines. Finally, we have the back office reviewer. They act as the vital anchor and ultimate gatekeeper, cross-examining the producer's findings to verify the integrity of the data. These three parties form a highly collaborative system where every single application must survive a rigorous gauntlet before it becomes a finalized policy. Once the application reaches the carrier's back office, the client's narrative is converted into a strict set of cold data points. The first hurdle is the liquidity formula. Because annuities are long-term assets that carry withdrawal penalties, reviewers must confirm the client has a guaranteed cash safety net left over. For clients under 65, reviewers verify they retain 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an accessible emergency fund. When a client is 65 or older, that requirement scales rapidly. Reviewers demand a full 12 months of liquid expenses safely outside the contract. This strict math serves as a hard barrier to ensure a client is never trapped without accessible cash during an unforeseen medical crisis. After securing liquidity, reviewers zoom out to assess concentration risk across the client's entire net worth. A client's total annuity holdings are strictly capped at 75% of their net worth to prevent overcommitting assets. For clients replacing an old annuity, total transfer penalties, like surrender charges, are strictly capped at an 8% guardrail to prevent heavy financial damage. Reviewers also audit the fine print to ensure the contract's surrender schedule aligns directly with federal rules, like the Secure Act's 10-year liquidation requirement for inherited accounts. An application clears this phase of the gauntlet only when the math objectively establishes a net financial benefit to the consumer. Passing these mathematical guardrails is merely the baseline. Operational excellence requires total, uncompromising documentation. High-standard carriers enforce a strict zero-blank rule. They reject applications containing empty fields or lazy NA responses, demanding absolute completeness on every form. Producers must provide balanced written statements. They are required to objectively document the specific drawbacks and limitations of the transaction, right alongside the proposed benefits. Then comes the chronological audit. Carriers verify that all required state, NAIC modules, and specific product training were completed before the client ever signed the application. In this ecosystem, transparency creates a permanent, archived record of accountability. There is a persistent myth in the industry that the back office acts as a rigid, combative barrier designed to arbitrarily reject business. The reality is collaborative. When an application sits on the borderline, reviewers actively engage with the producer to clarify scenarios, correct errors, and find the safest path forward. Finally, the application clears the review. The carrier grants a clean approval, and the annuity policy is issued. Ultimately, the suitability process protects the client's life savings, safeguards the carrier's integrity, and sustains a trustworthy retirement industry.